welcome to the Vin Armani Show. We are streaming live on YouTube at youtube.com/Vin Armani. Also on Twitter and Periscope at Vin Armani is my handle there. Today we are not streaming live on Facebook, but I will get this video up onto the Facebook page of our content partner Activist Post at facebook.com/Activist Post. Now, I don't know exactly what has happened today. You're noticing that we're starting like 5 minutes late. Not sure exactly what's going on. If I didn't know better, I would say that there's something particular about this show. We're having problems that we have not had before. Our software decided that it wasn't going to let us stream to both YouTube and Facebook, as we've been doing for the past 8 months. But all of a sudden, that stopped. Weird things happening trying to get it up on Periscope. And well, I don't know if it's just a coincidence that today our guest is somebody who has opened a lot of people's eyes and someone who the ruling elite, at least as he sees it, might not want to be talking. Of course, talking about David Icke. He's here, the author, researcher, you might say the sort of godfather of the conspiracy theorists that we have online. We're going to be talking to him. I just spoke with him a few minutes ago. He's ready to go. He's raring to go. So I'm very, very excited about that. We've got a great show for you today, except not for the people on Facebook. But for everybody else watching, we've got a great show today. We have some stories about cryptocurrency that I find very, very interesting. Some things happening in Nevada that are really, really unique and worth talking about. We're going to talk a bit about the climate change hysteria that's been going on. It's always a topic that I like to discuss. And we're also going to talk a little bit about some new developments with Manchester, the latest narrative about the Manchester bombing. To help me get through all of that, my good friend, co-host and producer, Mr. Christian Reyes. Christian.
Thank you, Vin.
Very strange, bro.
Yeah. Wow.
Very weird stuff happening today.
Mm-hmm. Tells you a lot.
Yeah, it's very, very weird, man. Very weird.
I just told everybody on Facebook to go to YouTube.
Oh yeah. That's a good plan. I may have to jump on Activist Post Facebook, but what we'll do is we'll take this archive and we'll definitely put it up. Easy enough to do. We'll upload it, and then everybody can check it out. Or maybe we'll just stream it like a pre-recorded version of this. We'll stream it after we're done here.
Cool.
Since we have it. So, dude, I woke up and saw that the Manchester story, they've now decided they've fleshed it out. I wanted to cover this because 2 weeks ago, we covered Manchester.
Mm-hmm.
We did a deep dive. There were a lot of questions. It's very strange story. And we started that show out saying that the narrative that they were constructing was all jacked up.
Yeah.
This narrative about he had 3 different apartments and he did it by himself, or he didn't do it by himself, or what was going on. But now the narrative, the official narrative now that it died down, now that they had London, this is not even top news. This comes out. If you want to show this this ABC story, this was just from this morning. Police say Manchester attacker built the bomb alone at his flat. We've basically got this. We basically have a lone gunman. So this is from ABC News. Suspected Manchester Arena attacker Salman Abedi most likely built the bomb used in the attack while, quote, alone in his flat. But investigators are still unsure of whether or not he had help carrying out the attack, police said Sunday. Police said they now have an understanding of Abedi's movement almost hour by hour in the days before May 22nd, when he allegedly detonated a knapsack bomb at the end of an Ariana Grande concert, killing himself and 22 others, according to police. We now have a deep understanding of Salman Abedi's movements in and out of the country in the weeks leading up to the attack, Russ Jackson, head of counterterrorism policing for Northwest England, said in a statement Sunday. We understand how the chemicals and equipment were obtained and where the bomb was assembled. 22 people who were previously arrested in connection with the terrorist attack have now been released, and some of them were determined to have only had innocent contact with Abedi. However, police are still looking to determine if other people may have helped him to obtain materials for the bomb, or if others, quote, were complicit in the storage of materials knowing what was being planned. Police are also looking to speak with Abedi's younger brother, Hashim, who has been detained in Libya, according to the Sunday statement. Detectives believe Abedi, a 22-year-old Briton of Libyan descent, used his vehicle to store bomb parts. He was captured on CCTV putting plastic barrels into the vehicle. Abedi purchased the vehicle, a white Nissan Micra, on April 13th, just 2 days before he departed for a trip to Libya. He returned to the UK on May 18th, seemingly with, quote, intent on committing the attack within days, police said Sunday, adding that he began to purchase more items for the bomb soon after his return. The Greater Manchester Police Department said the investigation has turned into one of the biggest that it's ever conducted, consisting of hundreds of witness interviews and more than 29 house searches. Quote, we have found evidence of explosive material at several locations. Each location has links to Abedi, Jackson said. This is very much a live criminal investigation moving at considerable speed. So, dude, very, very, very strange. The numerology people in this, the number 22 is interesting here. It says, so you have May 22nd, killing himself and 22 others.
Wow.
22 people who were previously arrested in connection with the terrorist attack have now been released. Abedi, a 22-year-old Briton of Libyan descent. I'm like, what the fuck?
Well, yeah, that's crazy.
And you know, all those, and that's the 11, right? Like 9/11, you know, like the very, very strange. But so let's examine this story now. You remember we covered three. So first they were saying there were three different places where he made these bombs, right? Now they're saying just one. Then this part, throw up this training thing. People don't remember this. In this article from the Telegraph that we discussed in 2 weeks ago, it says former Metropolitan Police Officer David Vidicett, who helped investigate the two bombings, I believe those were the 7/7 bombings, said it was likely Abedi had spent many months abroad practicing how to assemble a device before returning to the UK. He said, quote, this is not something you can just put together by reading a book or watching a YouTube video. He will have spent time at a camp somewhere, possibly in Libya, being shown how to do it. But once you have the skills and the materials, assembling the device itself can be done fairly quickly. So, they've got him on CCTV supposedly loading bomb parts into this car that he bought 2 days before and then going to Libya. Not for months, for like 6 weeks.
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense.
Okay? Then he comes back on May 18th, and 4 days later, the bomb occurs. So essentially what they're saying is it can't be that he went to Libya and learned in Libya, right? And then came back and in 4 days he acquired all the stuff and he built the bomb? No. Yeah. Probably would take more than 4 days to build the bomb anyway. So my question is still, if he's the lone bomber, where did he learn to build these bombs? Where is his travel? Show us his travel.
Yep.
When did he leave the country? Show us when he was gone. When did he learn how to build these bombs? They arrest 22 people and then they let everybody go. So you've got a lone gunman. Second, still, this guy is going through all this trouble. Supposedly he's radicalized. He's wanting to do all of this. Where's the Facebook posts? Where's the YouTube videos? Where's anything from this guy? ISIS took credit. Where's his connection with ISIS? And it's got to be his connection with ISIS before he goes to Libya. 6 weeks before this thing happens.
Wow. Just doesn't make any sense.
Absolutely no sense. Yeah. The fact that the media can even put this out is like, it's just ridiculous. So, do you want to lay some bets on what ends up happening with the London story?
What do you think?
Well, I'm thinking All three of these guys worked alone. There's no one else attached to it. Just like this. Like, it's unbelievable to me that people could swallow this concept. That this dude's gonna... Look, okay, if it's one guy all by himself, let's say it's one guy all by himself. Let's say he figures out, where did he spend the time learning how to build these bombs? Forget about that. Let's say that he magically is some sort of savant. He's like Ahmed the Clock Boy, right? Let's say he's kind of a savant. Let's say he actually is able to pull that off. It's as unbelievable as it seems. He leaves no writing. Because now we're talking about a psychopath, right?
Yeah.
He leaves no writing. He leaves no rants. He leaves no nothing. Even the guy who did the Portland train stabbing, they're like, oh yeah, his Facebook page was filled with all this shit. That's how we knew. Does this guy have a Facebook page? Like, what's the deal? 22-year-old kid. No Facebook page, no fucking Twitter, no Instagram, no YouTube.
Fucking weird. Doesn't make any sense.
Very, 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 very strange, dude.
Well, one thing that we kind of went over on the last show was the fact that maybe there was somebody training him.
Well, that's what seems logical to me. And if
he was being lured in, so to speak.
The only way now, I mean, this is what we said from the beginning, right? Now with this story, the only way that this whole situation makes any sense is that it was an agent of the government that actually set this thing up. To me, that's the only way that any of this story makes any sense.
Yeah. Crazy.
So let's see what happens with... still, the London story is going to happen now. It still is going to be a thing. So, yeah, man, very...
strange shit.
Very, very, very weird. Some other weird things happen. This week, one of the weirdest pieces of legislation to ever, I think, be passed. We're going to talk about this. I think it's part of a greater whole. Like, we're talking right now about seeing things that other people are not seeing and being surprised at it. This next story, this is news story number 1. This is a story about crypto savagery. As you guys know, I've been discussing this concept, the crypto savage, which essentially is all of us. We are the people living in the culture that's sort of on top of or mingled in with the old culture. We live online. We consume alternate media. We have thoughts and beliefs that are different than sort of the old left-right paradigm. And so we're coming into an entirely new world. And there are things like self-sufficiency that are a part of that. Cryptocurrency is definitely a big part of it. What the term crypto savage basically means is any culture viewing a culture that is not their own. They have this idea of the other. That's what a savage is. Savage actually comes from sauvage, which is like the forest, selva. So it's those people that live on the other side of the forest. They're significantly different than us. And the idea, as the Europeans came and they encountered, for instance, the Native Americans, and they said, oh, those savages. They have no culture. They have no civilization. But clearly they had a culture and civilization. They'd been surviving in the place that they were in a sustainable and prosperous way for thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of years. So clearly they had a culture, but it wasn't the culture of the Europeans. And to the Native Americans, when they looked at these Europeans who were dirty, they're living with their animals, they couldn't even grow food, they looked at them as savages. And so crypto, it's a prefix meaning hidden or secret. And so this is the hidden or secret culture that's going on. I want to talk about some things with cryptocurrency. Very interesting. Just stick with me on this, All right? Stick with me on this because it's a very, very interesting story that I think is going to have some major ramifications as this spreads across the country and hopefully across the world. So first thing I want to talk about is this interesting story about Amazon. Amazon has secretly become a giant bank. This is from The Street. Amazon.com said Thursday that its Amazon lending service has surpassed $3 billion in loans to small businesses since it was launched in 2011. In the last 12 months alone, the e-commerce giant has loaned over $1 billion to small businesses. Hiking up the sales for third-party merchants is a plus for Amazon as the company gets a piece of the transaction. We created Amazon Lending to make it simple for up-and-coming small businesses to efficiently get a business loan because we know that an infusion of capital at the right moment can put even a small business on the path to even greater success, Amazon Marketplace VP Piyush Nahar said. Over 20,000 small businesses have received a loan from Amazon, and more than 50% of the businesses Amazon loans to end up taking a second loan. So Christian, this is a whole new paradigm of the business loan, right? You're a company, you're selling things on Amazon, you want to expand your offering, you want to grow, Amazon's selling your shit, they can see your sales, they can see all the metrics, they've got it all, they're like, yeah, we want to increase that, here's some money, you increase it, Amazon makes money, you pay them back the loan.
Smart.
I mean, this starts to create this ecosystem where, I mean, look, dude, for me already with Amazon, it's like, since I have Amazon Prime, if I can get something on Amazon, I get it on Amazon and it comes in 2 days. A lot of people are like that. A lot of people are like that now. You know, the Walmartization of America is nothing compared to the Amazonization of America. Nothing. I mean, half of the stuff here
is right.
in the studio
Right.
I'm looking at cameras, mics, lights, mixing board, monitors, computer, like pretty much this whole, what we did for the studio is built
from Amazon
by getting shit from Amazon. So the reason why I wanted to bring this situation up is because it does have a tie into cryptocurrency. Every time we talk about cryptocurrency, every time we talk about Bitcoin, I notice that in the comments section, there are people who say Bitcoin is a Ponzi scheme, Bitcoin is all these cryptocurrencies, they're just a scam, they're not real money, they're not real money, they're not real money. Okay. Right now, Bitcoin is at almost $3,000 per Bitcoin. There's a lot of infrastructure at this point in terms of exchanges and whatnot, of moving your money in between cryptocurrencies and also getting it into your bank account. There's a lot of infrastructure for that. When this first happened, though, in 2013, I guess that was spring to summer 2013, the first time that it went to 1,000. There was very little infrastructure, and there was one exchange, Mt. Gox, which was basically on the verge of falling apart. So I had gotten in at like about $15. And then at that, $15 was what I bought in at, and then it went to 1,000. So I'm like, massive windfall. What do I do? You know what I did? I bought Amazon gift cards. I converted all my Bitcoin to Amazon gift cards, and then I bought the things that I would have bought.
Right.
You can go out and get Whole Foods gift cards. You can do all of these things. And it's not just one way. This is what people need to understand, that like when you have Amazon, because what are you going to do with money?
Go buy things.
Right. The things that you need.
Yeah.
Amazon's open. They've got in certain places, they've got Amazon Fresh, right? So they've got the grocery, I believe in Seattle, I think LA. There's a couple of cities where you can get actually fresh groceries. They've got the Prime Now, where they'll actually deliver things like within an hour to you.
Some kind of locker thing too, right?
They've got the lockers. I see those everywhere now.
Yeah, I see them everywhere
But
now.
the Prime Now is interesting because, I mean, pretty much all the stuff that you would get at the grocery store that's not fresh food, you can have it delivered in an hour with Amazon Prime Now. And you can use Amazon gift cards. You can go from cryptocurrency, from Bitcoin especially, to Amazon in like 2 minutes. Takes no time at all. Gift, GYFT.com is probably it's one of the biggest ones, right? And the other thing about Amazon gift cards is, you could buy a bunch and then you add them into your account and it just sits there as like a credit. And you're going to use it. If you're an Amazon user, you're going to use it, right? But you can also go back in the other direction. So like a lot of people don't know about purse.io, but go ahead and show that. It's very interesting. So with Purse, you can actually convert your gift cards back to Bitcoin.
Oh, wow.
Purse.io. So if you've got a big Amazon balance, basically, as it says here, to convert Amazon gift card balance to Bitcoin, you need to purchase merchandise for other Purse users on Amazon. Once that merchandise arrives and shopper confirms the order on Purse, Bitcoin will be released to you from escrow. To learn more about how this process works, go here. There's the link. If you go to purse.io, you can actually buy anything on Amazon. You don't even have to go get the gift card. You can do the gift card thing and do it yourself, or buy anything on Amazon using Bitcoin. I think they may take some other cryptocurrencies at this point. So my question is, Christian, how can you say Bitcoin is not real when I can buy real shit?
Exactly. And especially from a big company like Amazon, And that's just them kind of easing into it too. That they're gonna.
But so for me, that's the most where I'm like, wait, if I can use this to buy anything I want from Amazon, and it will arrive in 2 days, how can you say this is fake?
Exactly. Yeah.
Like, I don't understand.
But I do understand the skepticism too behind it. Like, people are very, especially when it comes to their money and stuff like that, they're very, very, very cautious, and they're very even when you say the word money around people, they're like, So,
well, yeah, I mean, I think that, people don't want to lose their money, but they have to understand that, there's billions upon billions of dollars in this cryptocurrency space.
Well, they're going to have to, because it's the future, and it's here right now.
So let's talk about this, because something happened in Nevada, and that's why at the beginning of this story I had this Nevada Agora thing. A law was passed this week, Senate Bill, SB 398 it's called. This law was passed. I want to go into this because this is some real crypto savagery, right? This is seeing, as a crypto savage, seeing this world like we're talking about. Well, it's the future. It's going to happen. Seeing this world and realizing, holy shit! The old culture, the people in this old culture, even the people in charge of the old culture, they don't even see it. They can't see it at all. I want to talk about what happened with this bill. It's super, super interesting. So go ahead and throw up this NV bill thing. Okay, so this is how I found out about it here. This is from CoinDesk. And the headline is, Nevada becomes first U.S. state to ban blockchain taxes. So we're here in Nevada. I said, ban blockchain taxes. What is that? So here's the story. Nevada has become the first state to ban local governments from taxing blockchain use. CoinDesk reported yesterday that Nevada's legislature had cleared the bill, the first introduced in March, and sent it to Governor Brian Sandoval for approval. Public records show that Governor Sandoval approved the measure yesterday, enshrining it in state law. In addition to preventing local governments from taxing the use of a blockchain or smart contract or requiring a licensure for their use, the bill stipulates if a law requires a record to be in writing, submission of a blockchain which electronically contains the record satisfies the law, meaning that data from a blockchain can be introduced in proceedings. The measure enjoyed broad support in the Nevada legislature, public records show. The Senate advanced it by a 21-0 vote in April, followed by the House of Representatives, which also passed it unanimously. So we've got this unanimous bill being passed. So what is this bill exactly? Why did this have me freaking out all week? What's in it? It's not even a bill anymore. It's a law now. So what is the new law in Nevada? Let's show this, yes, SB 398. So let's take a look at this thing. So its description is, establishes various provisions relating to the use of blockchain technology, approved by the governor. As they said in the article, both the Senate and Assembly unanimously, you can see that at the bottom of this thing, unanimously approve this thing. One person was excused. All right, let's take a look at the text of this. Go to the next one here. Okay, so this is Senate Bill 398, an act relating to electronic transactions, recognizing blockchain technology as a type of electronic record for the purposes of the Uniform Electronic Transactions Act, prohibiting a local government from taxing or imposing restrictions upon the use of a blockchain, and providing other matters properly relating hereto. So, just to get it out of legalese, the most important part to me, so it recognizes the blockchain, that's fine. It recognizes it as an electronic record, that's fine. This part, prohibiting a local government from taxing or imposing restrictions upon the use of a blockchain. And we know that the primary use for the blockchain right now is Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies. So let's read that a little bit differently. Prohibiting a local government, stopping a local government from taxing or imposing restrictions upon the use of Bitcoin, upon the use of cryptocurrency. And the use of cryptocurrency, the use of Bitcoin, as we just discussed, what is the use except commerce? And now let's keep going. The text of this bill is very, very strange. So they say, what is a blockchain? Pretty clear, an electronic record of transactions or other data, which is 1, uniformly ordered, 2, redundantly maintained or processed by one or more computers or machines to guarantee the consistency or non-repudiation of the recorded transactions or other data, and 3, validated by the use of cryptography. So blockchain is now defined within Nevada state law, being in there on its own. They made a definition. Okay, let's go next. This is where it gets interesting. So this the Nevada statutes, chapter 244, is basically the place that gives local governments, in this case county governments, the right. So it's the state giving counties the right to regulate businesses. And in this, it added a new section, and it says, a board of county commissioners shall not, A, impose any tax or fee on the use of a blockchain by any person or entity. B, require any person or entity to obtain from the board of county commissioners any certificate, license, or permit to use a blockchain. Or C, impose any other requirement relating to the use of a blockchain by any person or entity. Then it goes down and it says, except as otherwise provided in subsections 2, 3, and 4, blah, 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 and that part, the part that I just read, a board of county commissioners may, A, regulate all character of lawful trades, callings, industries, occupations, professions, and business conducted in its county outside of the limits of incorporated cities and towns. So this is super important. The way this reads, whether or not this is what someone was trying to put in, I mean, this was obviously crafted by some lobbyist, cannot figure out who the lobbyist is, would be interested to know. I mean, we discussed Reno. The person who introduced this is a representative from Reno. We discussed several months ago how Reno is now the place where Tesla and Google and other drone companies are going to be testing all their automation. As I read this, it basically puts an exemption saying that the counties, and we'll show the cities is next, cannot regulate trades, businesses, etc., that use the blockchain, that use Bitcoin. Go back to it. Go forward into it. Don't jump off it, because I want people to get a chance to look at this, because it's very, very interesting. The next part is fix, impose, and collect a license tax for revenue or for regulation, or for both revenue or regulation. This is for the city, same thing, on all character of lawful trades, callings, industries, occupations, professions, and businesses conducted within corporate limits. So it does the same thing for the city. To basically say, if you are using the blockchain, which is if you are right now, if you are using Bitcoin, if you are using cryptocurrency, you are exempted from local business licensing, business taxes, fees, regulations. I mean, it says require any person or it says impose any other requirement relating to the use of a blockchain by any person or entity. Imagine if that didn't say blockchain. Imagine if that said paper currency. Impose any other requirement relating to the use of paper currency by any person or entity. Christian, I don't know how you read that besides saying if you're running a business and all you're taking is cryptocurrency, you're exempt.
It's crazy. It's huge.
You don't need a county license.
Yeah.
You don't need, not only do you not need a license, it's illegal for them to even require anything. It said any requirement.
It's crazy.
Any requirement.
It's crazy.
I don't even, for me, I looked at this and I was like, what?
Yeah.
Why would they even write this? This is crazy. Do they even know what they're doing? Like, this is crazy.
Somebody, one of the lobbyists or somebody high up is definitely benefiting.
Well, I think, well, let's do this, because I was like, I need to know. Let's look at this testimony, right? I was like, they can't have done this. But when you see the testimony that was presented, so basically they presented the bill in front of the Judiciary Committee, right, to decide if, is this legal? Can we even do it? They brought 3 people. One is the CEO of a company called Filament. They're out of Reno, and they make mesh networks. The second was the Western Nevada Development something. And then it was a member of the Libertarian Party. And they brought him, show this, because I went and I grabbed it. Let's take a look at what they actually said in this thing, because it's really telling. Like, these dudes got owned. So this was on March 30th. They took this in there. So you had Allison Cliff Jennings, she's the CEO of Filament, Doug Irwin, who's the economic development from the Economic Development Authority of Western Nevada, and Wendy Stolyarov, who's from the Libertarian Party of Nevada. Okay, let's go forward. So just a few of the questions and the answers, right? Because they're pretty wild. So they start this thing, and the chair, Senator Segerblom, says, "Can you explain in layman's terms what a blockchain is?" And then the CEO of Filament says, "A blockchain is a digitized version of a proceeding similar to an Excel spreadsheet shared among many people. Anyone would know if someone else changes a row in that spreadsheet. A lot of technology changes the way blockchain works, but it is a fundamental way to create or increase trust between parties and transactions across all aspects of industry." Chair Segerblom, "Why would this be necessary?" She says, "In many different industries, a lot of trust needs to be established for transactions to happen. An example is auditing of major banks and other regulated industries that require auditing to prove things did or did not happen. Blockchain can enable capabilities to provide trust or establish verification of substantiation of something that happened in the physical world in a way that does not require auditing."
Bravo.
Bravo. No cryptocurrency, no money, no Bitcoin, no nothing. Go on. I was looking at this thing and I was like, holy shit, they just hacked Then she says, blockchain, this is her whole answer to why would this be necessary. "Blockchain technology is as important as the internet or mobile smartphones because it will change entire industries. It is only about 8 or 10 years old. Many companies, such as major banks, including Visa, Citicorp, and Wells Fargo and Company, and research groups are using blockchain." "You have my written testimony. It is not often that a new technology completely changes the way we interact with each other. As the CEO of a venture-backed, blockchain-based startup headquartered in Reno, I'm excited about this new technology and its ability to reduce fraud and bring new trust to existing interactions. As a native of Reno, I want to see Nevada continue its efforts to be friendly to technology entrepreneurs. Senate Bill 398 will make the state a leader in this revolutionary technology. It helps ensure prospective companies moving to Nevada that its legislature supports their work in building for the future."
Wow.
Dude.
Bravo. Fuck. That is fucking great.
To be able to mention the blockchain and no mention of Bitcoin or cryptocurrency, the primary use for it. Mm-hmm. And it isn't mentioned throughout this whole thing. Go to the next. I think there's a... So this is from the Libertarian Party of Nevada. This was Wendy Stolyarov. This is her statement. You have my written testimony. The Libertarian Party of Nevada supports SB 398 because the party opposes all government censorship, regulation, and control of communications, media, and technology. Don Tapscott, author of Blockchain Revolution, said, "The blockchain is basically a distributed database. Think of a giant global spreadsheet that runs on millions and millions of computers. It's distributed. It's open source, so anyone can see what's going on. It's truly peer-to-peer. It doesn't require powerful intermediaries to authenticate or to settle transactions. The blockchain is an immutable, unhackable, distributed database of digital assets. This is a platform for truth, and it's a platform for trust. The implications are staggering, not just for the financial services industry, but also right across virtually every aspect of society." Then she continues with her own statement. "Ensuring free and open access to blockchain will stimulate economic growth and cement Northern Nevada's role as a burgeoning center for high-tech innovation." Oh, that's interesting. I had skipped over that. This is really about Northern Nevada, about Reno. Aha! Governments can never keep pace with technological change, and when it tries, inevitably slows the rate of innovation. The past 20 years of online innovation have demonstrated how free markets, unhampered by government control, can fundamentally alter and radically improve the way we live in unimaginable ways. Blockchain is an extremely promising new technology, and it is essential to set boundaries to protect it while it is in its infancy. Bro.
Wow. Bravo. Fuck, that's
Bro.
great.
They owned
Yeah.
the legislature and the governor.
And they just opened the floodgates.
These dudes they got snowed. They basically, I had never seen anything like this. I had never seen anything. No, I take that back. You know, there is another, and it's interesting. There's another section that I saw because I was talking with I've been showing this to people, right? Like I showed it to the guys at Swarm City. They were like, "This is crazy."
Yeah.
Like I showed it to my friend at the Nevada Public Policy Institute. He's actually the director for transparency. And he was incredulous. He was like, "No, this can't say what this," right? To give that. And then by the end, he was like, "Yeah, whoa." There's a place in the Nevada statutes where it's saying that all these businesses can be regulated, but it does make an exception for motion picture, which I found interesting. So there is some precedent for them saying, okay, we want these type of businesses, but for them to take the power away from, I don't think a lot of people who are not entrepreneurs understand quite what that means.
Right.
For instance, this is true in both Nevada and California. In Nevada, most of the regulation around, for instance, alcohol sales and now marijuana sales is local.
Wow.
It's local. It's not state. If you want to open a bar, it's 99% local government, either city or county, that's going to give you the approval or not. The business license, the alcohol license, those are local licenses. Same thing with the weed shops. Basically, what the state legislature does is it decriminalized weed, what we did, which is now, I guess it's officially decriminalized. But in terms of, it added a few things, like if you want to be a distributor, if you want to be a grower, you've got to go and you've got to get the permitting from the state. But to open a shop, that's pretty much all local. Local government has to approve that. When I was going in for my business license on the gallery, people were going in there with these stacks, like this much paperwork.
It's ridiculous.
To get there, to be able to open dispensaries. They were starting to take the stuff, and it was like they had to see background checks. They had to see 10 years of financial records of anybody who had like even 1% share in it. Most of the gaming, most of all of that in Nevada, all of that, that's local. They just took it away. They said any use of the blockchain, no restrictions, no requirements, no taxes.
Crazy. It's happening.
No fees, no fines, no nothing, no requirements.
This just completely changes everything.
If you're willing to do business completely in cryptocurrency. So the pioneers of this shit, like I'm saying, For me, I think this is the gold rush.
Oh, dude. Fuck yeah.
Especially, like, if you go into downtown Vegas now, you can get a cheap storefront. And it's not far. There are people up on that strip who have cryptocurrency. There are ATMs everywhere in this town. Everywhere, including on the strip. Like, any business that you do, the city and the county cannot fuck with you. Unheard of. That's the law.
Crazy.
That's the law. Very, very trippy.
Yeah.
Very trippy. But that's how you have innovation. Yeah, you open the shit up. We'll see, though. We'll see. Look, I'm going to be following this as it moves forward, and I think that there's some real room for agorist activism. Some real room. So we'll follow that. I'm going to New Hampshire next week. I'll be speaking at Porcupine Fest. We'll talk about that a little bit later. New Hampshire also passed something, though. I found this interesting. Not as good. Not as good. But you know what? New Hampshire governor signs Bitcoin, MSB, that's the money senders, exemption into law. So New Hampshire, Nevada, and New Hampshire considered some of the more libertarian states. This is from CoinDesk again. The governor of New Hampshire has signed a bill into law that exempts digital currency traders from the state's money transmission regulations. Public records show that Governor Chris Sununu signed measure on 2nd June, more than a month after the state's legislature completed work on the bill. The measure was first introduced in January. According to the text of the bill, the new rules exempt persons conducting business using transactions conducted in whole or in part in virtual currency from the state's money transmitter regulations. Christian, that one's huge too, because it basically says if you have a Bitcoin ATM, if you're selling Bitcoin, you're doing all of that, there are some federal regulations, but the state's not going to fuck with you. That's huge.
Huge. That's huge.
So there's another place where some innovation can happen. One thing that a lot of people don't understand, and this is why I am not one of these people who thinks that secession, the people who say, no, we need to secede, take out the federal government, go to state, then secede from that, go to local. What most people don't understand is the most oppressive and repressive government is your local government. Your local government has more restrictions on you than any other government. Such that if we were, right at this minute, to eliminate all the governments but just leave the federal government, right now, there would be no business license taxes, no state income taxes, no sales taxes, no restrictions on businesses, none of this.
So essentially what you've done, if you succeeded, is you gave more power to the most dominant force.
That's right. So what happens is you secede your state away. The state will just take the power that the federal government
Exactly. Shit.
So then you secede the state away down to the county. The county will just take the power that the state had. Because, see, the county's already more restrictive than the state.
Right.
That's what this bill shows, that it's like the state of Nevada doesn't regulate businesses. The state of Nevada has delegated that to the local governments. It's not even that it's delegated it. It said you can. You can if you would like to. And not a single one of them has said, nah, we're not going to do that. Not a single city has been like, we're not even going to have a business licensing. No, of course they will. Of course they will. They're the most restrictive. So this is every time that a state says we will exempt. I don't know who the fuck is pushing these through. Somebody's in the background doing this.
Yep.
I've got to believe that this, the fact of the matter is there are Bitcoin billionaires right now. There are Bitcoin billionaires, and I bet you there are some lobbyists who are willing to take their payment in Bitcoin. So why not see if you can't get something pushed through?
It's brilliant. Honestly, it's I was thinking about it yesterday too, and I'm like, okay, you have all this shit going on with politics. People are fed up, fake news, all this stuff. And now this whole Bitcoin thing happening. And all the the principles behind it, they're going to start looking in that direction. It's like, it's almost too good to be true. It's like we're moving into checkmate, you know?
It's getting set up.
Yeah.
I mean, the interesting thing about this is now it's occurring to me that it may very well be some of the big miners who've done this, right? Because you imagine if you're Roger Ver, you've got Bitcoin.com, you've got this huge mining pool, and you wanted to set up a mining data center now, build a mining data center, you would have no business licensing requirements, no local taxes, nothing. They couldn't put any regulation on you at a local level, and no state income tax.
Wow.
Because it's Nevada. It's unregulated.
Right.
It's crazy. It's crazy. So we're going to see where it goes. This is going to flesh out because somebody paid for this to happen, and they're not just going to sit by idly. We're going to see this thing flesh out. What do we got in terms of time? We got about 10 minutes. Do we have time for climate? Nah, I'd say we don't really have time for climate. Maybe we'll do it after. But let me talk a little bit about Porcupine Fest. So throw up this Pork Fest here. I'm going to be speaking next week at, is that next week? It is next week. At Pork Fest in New Hampshire. I'm speaking, it goes from the 21st to the 25th. I'm speaking on the 22nd. From 5 to 6 in the pavilion. I'm going to be talking about agorism, self-ownership, giving a preview of some of the concepts in my book, which is just about done and just about ready to be sent off to be edited. So if you're already going to PorkFest, would love to have you come and check out the talk. I think it should be a good one. If you're not going to PorkFest, especially if you're in the Northeast, just a few hours drive. There are some great speakers. Christian Lynn Ulbricht's going to be there, I know. I'm actually looking forward. Michael Tui is going to talk. From the head developer and architect of Swarm City is going to be there. I think this is one of the first freedom conferences that he's spoken at, which is awesome. Who else is going to be there? Judd Weiss is going to be there.
Nice.
Avens O'Brien is going to be there. There's a lot of people. I mean, New Hampshire's going to be.
Yes.
It's going to be an interesting. I mean, I'm not going to be able to make it to the Red Pill Expo because it's too much flying, and I'm trying to get back. I've got a lot going on this month, but you can still get your tickets. It's an awesome sort of outdoor event. You can bring the family. A lot of Liberty stuff there, and it goes on for all day. It's probably the more family friendly and fun out of all of these. Little less of the sort of conspiracy theory stuff, and a little more of the fun,
right.
The fun of it. So
awesome.
New Hampshire, Pork Fest. Let's see what we got. 7 minutes. Let's do this. Let's see if David Icke is ready. It's a little early, but why don't you check out and see if he's ready, and we can go to break, and then why don't we come back with. Talk a little bit about counter markets, and then if David's ready, then we'll have him right on. So let's go to break.
Where is it?
It's over here, dude. It's been a weird day.
There it is. Okay.
Welcome back to the Vin Armani Show. We are streaming live on YouTube at youtube.com/Vin Armani, also on Twitter and Periscope. At Vin Armani is my handle there. Today, because of some weird software glitch, we are not streaming on Facebook, but there is a very good chance that you will be watching this after we have gone live. This is definitely going up on Activist Post's Facebook. So we are back, and we are going to be going to our guest, I believe, in a few. Is he ready? We don't know yet? No? All right, so let's talk a little bit about counter markets. The new June issue of Counter Markets is out. and it's excellent. I'm very, very excited. I mean, I believe this is issue 4. They just keep getting better and better. My article, I think, is especially poignant for the discussion that we've been having, but my article this week is about the token, the smart contract tokens, such as the ones used with companies like Swarm City, and what industries these things are going to be impacting first. With these things happening in Nevada, it may be even faster and even more industries. But it's a great article. If you don't understand smart contracts, or you don't really, it's not hitting it from the technical side, but what it's hitting it from is it's hitting it from the use case side, so that you can see just how disruptive this technology has the capability to be. And of course, we have some other great articles in there. We've got our monthly cryptocurrency and silver report. Some interesting things. We've got Ethereum, which is 300 and something dollars per Ether. We recommended Ethereum at $14. We said now's the time to buy. Had you bought at that point, however much you would have bought, 20-fold increase, and that was just a few months ago. So we've been hitting it every single time. Get your first issue for free, so you can get this information for free first month, countermarkets.com. But just following our advice just one time, and we've done it 4 months in a row. Following our advice just one time is going to pay for your subscription. So that's why we're able to give it away for free. That's why we're very excited to be continuing to do this. Christian, do we have David? Yay? Nay? No? Well, let's you and I have a little bit of a. Oh, there he is. So maybe we can just go straight to him. My guest today is David Icke. He is an English writer, public speaker, and former media personality, best known for his views on what he calls, quote, who and what is really controlling the world, describing himself as the most controversial speaker and author in the world, which I agree with. He has written many books explaining his position, dubbed New Age Conspiracism, and has attracted a substantial following across the political spectrum. His 533-page The Biggest Secret, published in 1999, has been called the conspiracy theorist Rosetta Stone. David Icke, welcome to the Vin Armani Show.
Thanks, mate. I'm not sure about the New Age part of the conspiracy theorist, and I'm not sure about the conspiracy theorist part of the New Age either. It's funny, isn't it, how things get repeated, like in the mainstream media. Whenever I'm mentioned, I'm a conspiracy theorist, just like you and everybody else. Mm-hmm. When that, of course, came from the CIA in the 1960s, urging American media outlets to use the term conspiracy theorist and conspiracy theory to discredit legitimate research into the ludicrous official narratives of what was going on in the 60s, like the Kennedy assassination.
Well, and so many of those things have turned out to, the theories have turned out to be the absolute truth, that it's especially, and interestingly, I mean, we're coming into a time now, we were talking before the show started, we were talking a little bit about how interesting the move has been and the acceptance has been of these things that were thought of as being so outside of the mainstream. I know we were talking when I first discovered your work, there was no YouTube, certainly. I was getting these sort of like pirated videos that people were putting up from around the web. If you would, could you talk to us just a little bit about what that journey has been like for you? You must certainly feel vindicated nowadays.
Well, yeah, but I'm delighted because when I started out, if you were doing an event, you had leaflets printed and you tried to persuade people to hand them out to their friends. That's where we were. There was no internet. It theoretically existed, but not much more. And you had to get the word out through word of mouth, which obviously was very slow. And when I first came to America to speak on these subjects in about 96, something like that. I was talking in people's front rooms. I went all the way up to New England to speak near Boston, and spoke in someone's front room to 5 people. I spoke near Chicago and got 8 people. Crikey, good night. Get nearly double figures now. And I would be invited to these whole life expos, which were obviously based on the kind of New Age arena. And I'd get put on at the end of the night when everyone had gone home, because I was this strange conspiracy guy. And I remember one near Phoenix. I wasn't even put on inside. I was put on in a like horse corral, literally outside late at night in the main arena next door. Inside was a big, at the time, New Age speaker packing them out. And I was literally in the horse corral next door, and it was freezing. And the longer it went on, the colder it got. I wouldn't have sat in the audience and heard me that night because it was so cold. People were leaving slowly after they got blankets, and they were cold with the blankets, so they left. And this was the kind of strange situation you found yourself in. And there were times when you thought, what is the point? But something drives you on, something unspoken, something you can't really put words to. It's going somewhere. I know it, and all the evidence is telling me it's not, but it is, and that's the way it's turned out. And I think what has happened is it's literally, because I'm always saying this, it's not about the personality. It's not about me. It's about the information. That has got to be first, second, third, and last, the most important thing and the whole focus. What is best for the information? Not what is best for this individual, that individual in that moment. What is best for the information? And it's the power of the information that has actually made the difference, for a simple reason. It's made more sense than the official narratives.
Right.
It's out credibilitated them, if you like, to invent a word. And that's its power. And that's why, of course, now we've got this fake news hoax. I'm the last one to say there's not fake news in what's called the alternative media, but where the fake news is, it's not the alternative media. It just claims to be.
Right.
But this fake news hoax is a response to the power of information when it's presented and people hear it. And that's why now, although, of course, it's still the vast majority are buying the official story, but compared with the period that we're talking about, when I'm standing in the horse corral near Phoenix, it's much more difficult now in terms of numbers for the official narrative to be accepted unchallenged. More and more people are saying, hold on a minute, who benefits? And such questions which invariably unravel the official story.
Well, I want to talk a little bit about this information, and especially going back to a time when I think now we can, in many ways, we can sort of crowdsource our truth. In that, as you say, while there is some fake news in the alternative media, that's quickly squashed by people being able to refute it almost instantaneously. I want to go back a little bit and talk about how you've been right on so many things. You introduced people to so many things that were not in the mainstream at a time when this information was not readily available to the public, except as you were presenting it. How were you able to get a hold of this information in light of that sort of environment? And two, what have been the tools? Because I think this would be very helpful for people who are trying to sort through. What are your cognitive or mental tools for saying, yes, this is real, or this feels real, this is credible, or this is not? What are those tools?
Well, this will take us into some deep areas, really, because nearly 30 years ago, I went to see a psychic because I was in television at the time, because some strange things were happening around me. I kept feeling a presence around me for a year. When I was in a room alone, it didn't feel I was alone. And I went to see this psychic. I came across a book by accident. I'd never seen a psychic in my life before. And to see if she would pick up what was going on. Never said anything to her. Anyway, after a couple of visits, she did. And various things paranormal happened, if you like, in psychic mode. And this lady was telling me in March 1990, and I was just a television presenter at the time, that I was going to go out on the world stage and reveal great secrets. And that, in effect, there was a force that was going to take me through it and reveal it to me. And from that moment, my life became an incredible synchronistic journey of walking into information, walking into people, walking into books, walking into documents, walking into personal experiences that were clearly offering a pattern of information. It was like someone sitting with a jigsaw puzzle, and some force handing you the puzzle pieces. And in the early years, it was all the 5 sense world of secret societies and semi-secret groups that were manipulating the world of the seen. Then the information took me into the world of, shall we say, the non-humans, and crucially then into the illusory nature of physical reality and the way reality really works, as opposed to how we experience it. And it's been, the challenge for me has been to go with the information, even when I knew that I was going to face tremendous ridicule for putting that in the public arena. And people have said to me, when you said so-and-so and so-and-so, didn't you think people were going to laugh and ridicule? I'm going, do you know, I think I'd worked that out. Well, either it's the truth or it's not. And what I've done through all these years is follow my intuition. And see, people can think that intuition is kind of hit and miss, but intuition is our connection to much more expanded states of awareness. It comes from here, from the heart. It's where you feel it. I feel it anyway. And there's an energetic vibe that says, yes, this is right. And there's another one that says, no, this is not right. And over the last 30 years, I've followed that and taken what I felt was right, supported it with 5 sense world information to a very large extent, whenever possible, and it's becoming more and more possible, and rejected the rest. And I remember someone said to me once, an insider, he said, you've quoted a disinformer in your book. I said, yeah. He said, yeah, but you've only quoted the bit that's true. How did you do that? And I said the same thing. You know, I'm not sitting cross-legged on a mountain saying, hey, I'm special. No, this is what anyone can do. This is the whole point of what I'm trying to get across, is that we are incredible expressions of awareness, of consciousness, of potential. We are all possibility. But what the system has done, because it's had to, you can't control and oppress people who are aware of their true self, that we are pure consciousness having an experience, all that is, has been, and ever can be. You have to persuade them that they're Ethel working down the store on the checkout, and they're just little me and they have no power. And what you see in the mirror is all that you are. You are your name, you are your job, you are your life story, you are your race, your religion, your income bracket, what I call phantom self. And by doing that, you persuade people they have no power. And if you can persuade people in large numbers they have no power, what are they going to do? They're going to look to those they think have the power to tell them what to do and tell them what to think and to run the world for them. And all these other senses, which this manipulation desensitizes people from, so that the only arbiter of reality and what's true and what's not true and the world we live in is the five senses. Can I see it, touch it, taste it, hear it? Okay, it must exist then, which of course is the foundation of overwhelmingly the greatest majority of mainstream science. All these sensitivities go, and yet they're just sitting there dormant, waiting to be used, and we can all use them. It's just a choice. So on top of all that, in terms of judging what's true and not true, beyond all that deeper stuff, it's hours of research, not accepting that just because someone even in the alternative media has said this is what's going on, you check it out. Does it stand up? Because when RT, Russia Today, has this slogan it uses from time to time, question more, it's actually one step back from what it should be saying. It should be saying question everything.
Right.
And when you do that and you cross-reference and cross-reference and cross-reference, eventually there comes a point where you cross the line of credibility. You have enough supporting evidence here to go with this. And if your intuition's also going, go with it. That combination can be very, very powerful in getting at least as near to the truth as we can. Where you're going to get scammed is if you just accept information on the face of it without checking it out. And as we've seen with the way significant parts of the alternative media have been scammed by Trump.
Yes.
That's falling for allowing people to tell you what you want to hear. Telling people what they want to hear is one of the greatest forms of perception manipulation. Because as we know in this alternative arena, when you tell people what they don't want to hear, i.e. the world is not what they thought it was, and actually there's a force in the shadows that's manipulating all this to a very malevolent agenda, people don't want to hear that. And if they don't want to hear it, they're much more likely to push it away. People don't want to hear what they don't want to hear. So the alternative to that is what politicians do, what Trump did. He looked at his constituency of potential support, and those around him did. And part of that potential support were people that look for their information from the alternative media.
Right.
So what he did was, as part of his campaign, he told the alternative media what it wanted to hear. And unfortunately, some people bought it because it was what they wanted to hear. And, you know, if you looked at it dispassionately, and this is what we have to do all the time, I don't care if it's my best mate. You know, if they tell me something, I'm going to check it out to see if it stands up before I communicate it. So that I'm actually confident it's true. And so you don't become a repeater of someone else's information all the time. And so when you looked at it dispassionately and you saw how the Democratic Party conspired to, its hierarchy anyway, conspired to stop Bernie Sanders getting anywhere near the nomination and ensured that Hillary Clinton got it. Are we naive enough to think that if the Republican Party really, really didn't want Trump,
right,
that there would have been some point in all those months that they would have ensured that wasn't going to happen? And what Trump is doing is serving this agenda very well, not least because he's a very divisive influence. He pushes people apart. He doesn't bring them together. Of course, divide and rule is the foundation method of the few controlling the many throughout known and probably unknown human history. And the other thing, of course, has happened, and you know, what we have the opportunity to do now, as a human race and as an alternative media, is to learn very basic lessons and never forget them. And Barack Obama and Donald Trump have given us that gift, if you like. Because on the so-called left, and I emphasize the so-called left, we had Obama, who spent his first election campaign telling everybody what they wanted to hear. That was his natural constituency. And telling people that he was all about change, 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 change. And the reason they talk about change all the time in election campaigns is because of the way the system works. The status quo is not very popular with most people at any point. So tell them you're going to change the status quo, and you've already got people, his ears pricking up. And he went in, and for 8 years, he did virtually the opposite of what he said he would do, and not what he said he would do, not least over Guantanamo. He was promoted as Mr. Peace and got the Nobel Peace Prize, and there wasn't a day in his entire 8 years when America wasn't at war with somebody. And you'd think that the so-called progressive left would say to themselves, it's not credible any longer to go on accepting what these people say and believing they'll do it. And then Trump's come in, the apparent polarity to Obama, and he's gone through the same process if you break it down. And the only difference between Obama and Trump is that Trump has broken all records for U-turning on the basic planks of his election campaign.
Yes.
And what has happened is he's just dropped in to become the mouthpiece for the same hidden hand that Obama was and Bush was, and they're going down the same route. See, if you look at the Project for the New American Century and that document in September 2000, when they named that list of countries for regime change, and they've ticked them off ever since. First of all, when Bush came in and the Project for the New American Century writers came in with him, people like Cheney and Rumsfeld and Wolfowitz and Zackheim, they picked off one on that list, Iraq. Then a completely different lot come in with Obama, a different lot from Blair in Britain come in with Cameron, and they pick off Libya and still trying to pick off Syria.
Right.
Now, the big prize at the end of that list in 2000 was Iran. And here's Trump, Mr. Change, I'm anti-establishment, I'm going to drain the swamp. He's been swimming in it all his life. Why would he want to drain it? And now he's come in, and who is he targeting?
Iran.
Yeah. And it's the same agenda. And what they do is change the rhetoric to persuade people just one more time, just one more election. This is different this time. And it never is. For the simple reason that to run for president, let alone to win office, requires such a phenomenal amount of money and backing from people with a phenomenal amount of money that genuine people, I mean, Bernie Sanders, I'm not saying he is, God's gift to politics, but he was more genuine than Clinton, mind you, crikey, who is. But he had no chance, right? They just, no, you're not getting it. So this is how it works. So when you see this, it's incredibly naive to think that someone's bucked the system. And we've got to then start looking at changing things directly ourselves through refusing to cooperate with our own enslavement, which then makes the politicians react to us instead of us constantly having to react to them. And there is, we're talking here about the way interest in this information has increased and increased dramatically and dramatically and dramatically.
Yes.
And that is starting to manifest. It manifested with the Brexit vote when people in this country, they're trying desperately to stop it now and water it down. But people voted for Brexit in this country against the demands and the fear-mongering of virtually the entirety of the political class in Britain, from left to right. They voted for Trump in large numbers, not because of what he is, but because of the perception of what he was. He promoted himself as an outsider. We've just had a guy, Jeremy Corbyn, the opposition party leader in Britain, who's just promoted himself in an election campaign as the outsider and the anti-establishment. And he got tremendously more support than ever he was expected to get. People are now starting to challenge the status quo and question the status quo and say we're not having it anymore. And it's just the beginning.
I want to talk with you a little bit about what has happened in the last couple of weeks in the UK, because I'm still, obviously, the narrative about these two attacks is rotten to the core. But I was also very interested in, and maybe you can comment on this, the idea that it seemed to me that the attacks would serve the interests of the conservatives more than anyone, and yet now it seems as though that didn't happen. I'm interested because certainly in the United States it goes the other direction. I'm interested in your thoughts. It's clearly moving in the direction it was supposed to be moving, and maybe it's away from Brexit. But where do you think that the disconnect is there? Why did that thing not pan out in the way that May and others had thought that it might?
Well, I think you can't underestimate the catastrophic nature of the Theresa May Conservative Party campaign, the governing party's campaign. I mean, first of all, she announced an election she didn't have to announce, and then proceeded to say and do everything that would lose her votes. I mean, the manifesto was a suicide note.
Exactly.
It targeted the very natural conservative voters, older people that voted conservative in large numbers. So it was a catastrophic campaign. But another part of the situation with the terrorism, people are now questioning. They are more than ever before, that something's not right with all this, and the Conservative Party's kind of selling point is that they are tough on terror and they are the party of security.
Right.
Well, having two terrorist attacks in a 3.5 week or so election campaign, two horrific ones, really did show that they're not. So things are changing. They can't sell the narrative like they could before as easily as they could before. Because not only did, of course, they have these terror attacks to exploit, and she did her best to exploit them, not least promising to have government control of the internet if she got back in. That also went down like a lead balloon. But the government supporting Conservative Party newspapers were targeting her opponent, Jeremy Corbyn, day after day as being a friend of terrorists. So they were pushing it down both avenues. Here's terrorist attacks, and this man's a friend of terrorists. You should hate him. But it didn't work, because, these forces of authority have got to now start getting used to the fact that the game is changing for a simple reason. Human perception is changing. What they could get away with unquestioningly before, they can't now among great numbers of people. And that's extremely encouraging, because, just putting this information out and making people aware of it is only part of this whole necessity of what the alternative media is doing. But we need people to respond in their perceptions and therefore their actions to what this information is showing. I hear this term all the time: knowledge is power. It's not. It's not. The use of knowledge is power. Power is not there if you have knowledge but don't use it. You might as well not have it. The use of knowledge is power. And that's where we need to go now, to start to get people to look at the world in a different way. And instead of focusing on the manufactured opposition, I'm left, I'm progressive, you're a fascist, I'm a conservative, you're a communist, and all this stuff, it's to say, hold on a minute. Let's stop focusing on the oil rags, like Trump and Theresa May and Obama and Cameron and Blair so much. Don't say that we don't at all, but let's turn our focus on that which is always there. Because, these politicians come and go, but there's a force that's always there. I say to people, all over America are secret underground bases, these DUMBs, deep underground military bases, where presidents don't have a high enough security clearance to know what's going on there. So this is the question: what's the force, what's the authority that's deciding what goes on there? Because it's not the White House. There'll be someone else in the White House eventually, and they won't know either. Obama didn't know. Trump won't know. So it's this force that's always there that we need to focus on. In America, certainly under Trump and Bush, but also Obama, the most seeable level of this force are the neocons.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, they are a front for a front for a front for a front. But in terms of the public arena and the way the hidden hand directly interacts with the politics of the scene, it's the neocons. That's who we should be focusing on, not the puppets, but the puppeteers. Then we might get somewhere.
I want to ask you, because it has been very disconcerting to me. You've been one of the few people who I think has stayed consistent. I mean, you've stayed consistent your entire career, and in some ways I feel like that almost inoculates you from being co-opted. But as we talk about this sort of greater power, some of the larger alternative media personalities who had at certain points locked into these same concepts that, yes, beyond who's in office, that there is a greater power, and those people can't even control that power. I feel that so many of them in this last election allowed themselves to be co-opted, and now even after we're talking about, and I'm not going to name any names, and I more want your thoughts on the psychological process behind that and why that hasn't affected you over the years, but allowed themselves, and now as we're seeing, as you say, Trump flip-flop, they've gone from really trying to get to the core of where the power really is to becoming apologists for a puppet. What is the psychological process behind that? Why has that not happened to you? What do you feel that it is that's different about your message or your approach that allows you to basically stick with it and to not fall into this?
Well, first of all, I'm not interested in pushing an agenda. I'm interested in uncovering the truth. This is why I don't support political parties. I don't support politicians. I put information out there and then let people make their own minds up what they support and what they don't. My, if you like, decided role is to put information into the public arena that wouldn't normally get there, so people can make a more informed decision over a greater swathe of information and possibility than they would without this information. So I'm completely dispassionate about what goes on beyond that. The other thing is that personally, I'm coming from this point of view. I am a point of attention within infinite awareness, infinite possibility. And that point of attention currently has been given the name David Icke. But it's just a name, it's just a label. The body I'm experiencing through is a temporary vehicle, given the name David Icke, for that infinite point of attention, that eternal point of attention. That point of attention that can perceive itself to be Ethel on the checkout, or all that is, has been, and ever can be. It's just a way of deciding how expansive we believe we really are. And therefore, I don't connect with or identify with a country, a race, a religion, a political movement, a political party, any of it. If you are coming from a self-identity that you are, for instance, American, or you're coming from a self-identity even smaller that you are a John Wayne American, then that can completely scramble your judgment and your way of seeing situations, other people like Trump. You can still see this as a fight between the left and the right. And it's what I call, because, you can talk about these things and these psychological things very much through the analogy of computers and software. And people have default positions. They have default modes. And if your default mode is I am American, and particularly I am a John Wayne American, you can go along a road of seeing that a hidden force is controlling all sides. You can talk about false flag events that have been set up to demonize the target. But then something comes along, and Trump has done this, I think, for a lot of this mentality in America. And you get kicked back into default position. And suddenly you've shape-shifted. All that's gone before, all the narrative, all the way of dissecting events and dissecting situations, all gone, as if it's never been there. Suddenly, instead of seeing that one single force is manipulating both sides, suddenly, no, this person's different. He's different. You know why he's different? He's saying what I believe is right. He's telling me what I want to hear. Right. He's different. He called me.
Right.
Hey, hey, he's got to be right. And those false flags that we were talking about, those false flags where they set up people to do terrorist events because they wanted to get an outcome? No. It's the Muslims. Right. It's the Muslims. That's the problem. And suddenly you're looking at very, very different people because the default position has kicked in and the reboot. And it's been fascinating to watch. And I think also very sad because if we are going to be alternative, if we are going to put forward a view of events that questions the official narrative, then we have to be dispassionate from these things. We can't get pulled into personalities. We can't get pulled into prejudice. We can't get pulled into saying things are happening and are right because it suits our belief system. We've got to be one step back and more than one step back from everything. So when someone that we generally might agree with some of the things that they says, we check them out as well. We treat them with the same questioning as we treat people that vehemently are saying things that we don't agree with. Because that's the only way that you arrive at the truth. Once you have an outcome that you would like it to be, i.e. Trump, is different, then you'll start editing, censoring, not hearing, not seeing things that tell you something different or point to things being not what you'd like them to be. And these are all psychological cul-de-sacs. These are all psychological slip roads off the freeway that take people off the direction that we need to go, which is to look at the picture in its entirety all the time and never get pulled into the pixels, which obscure the picture. No, don't get caught into the twigs, which obscure the forest, because it's only when you see the forest that you actually know what's going on. And you know, this is an important point, I would say. You know, it's interesting, and I'm not saying it's not important, that we analyze and look at who's become president or who's become prime minister. But in the greater scheme of things, the greater picture of things, the greater forest of things, they're just twigs. They're twigs in the forest. And if we get so consumed by them, then we lose the essential element of research, and that's peripheral vision. You know, say to people, you know, if you've got a pen or something, I don't know, pair of glasses, anything on the table while you're listening to this, pick it up, put it in front of your eyes about 2 inches away, and focus on it. Where's the rest of the world gone now?
Right.
It's a blur. All you can see is what you're focused on. And that is a psychological trap which happens when we become obsessed with twigs and lose sight of the forest. Because the picture is much, much bigger, far, far more bigger than who is in the White House. And I think, just my personal point of view, the alternative media needs to start expanding its own vision. It's done a fantastic job revealing elements of the world of the seen and the world of the five senses, so that people can see a different narrative, an explanation of the world that they see and experience every day. But that world is just a movie screen. It's just the movie screen that's coming out of the hidden. It's coming out of hidden forces, hidden networks, hidden manipulation. Even in the end, not even human. And that's where the projection, which slaps on the screen, and we call this the world that we see, that's where it's coming from. And when you see that vision of the scale of what's going on, then really who's in the White House becomes much smaller deal than it would otherwise be. And if we go on trying to change the world of the seen, purely in the world of the seen, then the hidden hand is going to crack open another bottle and celebrate, because it knows, because it understands, or the deep part of it does, it understands the nature of, illusory nature of so-called physical reality. That if we go on trying to change the movie screen on the movie screen, then we're never going to get anywhere. You know, if you don't like the movie, it's no good getting a banner and going on the stage of the movie theater and shouting abuse at the screen. It's not going to change. It's happened. It's a done deal. Where is this coming from? And we've got to, I think, as an alternative media, start to bite the bullet, take a big swallow for those that are still only seeing the five sense level of everything, and start to tramp down this rabbit hole to much deeper levels, because that's the only way we're going to change anything. You know, in the end, everything is consciousness. Everything is consciousness interacting with itself. You know, it's funny, I've just been adding a couple of things to the book I'm writing at the moment about the placebo effect. And the way that people take a pill that is nothing more than a sugar pill, but they believe it to be a real pill that's going to cure them, and the symptoms disappear. Nothing's happened except they believe that pill that isn't is going to remove them. And there's a professor, a surgeon, orthopedic surgeon professor at Oxford University, who's come out this week and said that thousands of people are having unnecessary operations. And the reason they've had the operation is disappeared, not because of the operation, but because they believe the operation would make it disappear. In other words, the mind, the perception is everything, which is why, it's funny, how about that for synchronicity, with
right.
the book Perception, Deception on the
There
screen. And it's the perception level that is the foundation of human control. The Trumps and the Bushes and the Obamas and all these people are players in the game. Come and they go. But the level that's always there, and what decides what this world is and how this world is human perception. Let's go back to what I said earlier about Ethel at the checkout.
Please.
If that's the perception of self, that is the life you will live. I've got no power. Nothing exciting ever happens to me. Well, you're a self-fulfilling prophecy. That's what happens. That's what it all is. If you perceive yourself to be infinite awareness, all that is, has been, and ever can be, having an experience, I am all-powerful. I am potentially all-knowing. Then you come from that perception. It is going to interact with reality and manifest from the quantum fields of possibilities and probabilities a very different life, a very different potential to those that believe they are little me. And if you look at the whole foundation of human control, yes, we can talk about manipulated wars. We can talk about manipulated false flags, talk about manipulated banking systems. Yes, and we should. But the bottom line is the control of perception, because they know, because of these self-fulfilling prophecies that we live, where what we perceive, what we believe we perceive, and what we perceive we experience. That if they control what we perceive, they are, through this process, controlling what we experience.
Right.
And it's this level of taking control back of our perceptions, not only of perceived external reality, it's not really, but perceptions of self. No more little me. No more, oh, well, he's done this research and so it must be right. I'm just little me. I better just believe him. No, question it all. Become your own power. Excuse me. Your own arbiter of truth, and not a repeater of someone else's.
So I 100% agree with you, and it's something that we've really taken on our shoulders on this particular show, is that I really do feel that our job, there's enough out there of springing things left or right, and that our job is really to start removing fear and allowing people to step forward as who they really are. But that fear is so, and I see it, and I see people fighting it constantly. As you've moved through your career of spreading the truth, as you've helped to start eliminating, maybe at first some people get a little more afraid, but then they start to become less afraid as they recognize what their power is. I'm interested to know, as we if we decide to take this on our shoulders, if we decide as more people in alternative media to really approach this from a psychological and a spiritual dimension, to say that we can really start to raise people's consciousness, elevate people into something new, and take them out of that control grid, out of that hologram, that matrix. What does, because we haven't seen it, or we don't know, certainly the history of civilization is people inside of this control grid. What does that start to look like? How will we know when this starts to manifest? How do people's behaviors and attitudes change en masse as that awakening starts to happen? What does the world start to look like?
Well, when you open your mind to more expanded consciousness, things don't look the same. Competing with each other, walking over people to get up to the illusory greasy pole no longer becomes something that is desirable. It becomes ludicrous, becomes childlike, pointless. See, if you self-identify, and self-identity stroke perception is the whole foundation of this. If you self-identify with your name and your life story and your religion and your race and country and everything like that, then you, from that point of observation, become isolated from everyone else who has a different name and a different life story and a different race and a different country or whatever. And so the fault lines for divide and rule become limitless. And we see it all the time. Muslims played off against Muslims, and religions played off against religions, income brackets against income brackets, left against right. When you start to identify as being a point of attention within infinite awareness, and you realize that every other human, every other tree, every other plant, every other animal, every other insect, every other breath of air, drop of water, is a point of attention within the same infinite awareness. Because if it isn't, it can't exist. Because that's all there is, consciousness. Then you start to see unity. You start to see that actually the divisions are illusory. We're all one consciousness having different experiences. And that unity creates enormous power in the so-called but not external world. There are various places around the Earth where they monitor the Earth's magnetic field. And on 9/11, when people globally were seeing and reacting to that horror on television, there was an enormous spike in that field, impacted by the emotional response of the population. So when we feel emotion, when we think thoughts, they don't happen in a vacuum. They generate electromagnetic energy, frequencies. The denser emotions, not least fear, anxiety, depression, a need for violence and control over, are very low frequency states. And when we have a world of fear, not only does that vibrational state impact upon the individual feeling those emotions and brings their field into a low frequency state, it's pouring that into the collective field, the sea of energy that we all live in. And therefore, we are interacting, if you like, and I say this is not even symbolic, this is literal. We are interacting with that Wi-Fi field, if you want to use that analogy, and it's accurate to do so. And that Wi-Fi field is affecting us as we are affecting it. And that brings the whole, if you like, information, the information pool within that field into very low vibrational states, which are based on low vibrational emotion and very, very limited thinking. You see, when you think in a very limited way, we talk about people being closed-minded. But what is a closed mind? It's a low frequency state. And a low frequency state cannot connect with a high frequency state, which is a state of expanded awareness. So people literally are in a bubble or a box of perception. And that has become this self-fulfilling prophecy. If we could see on an energetic level, we would see distorted, inverted energetic frequencies pouring out of people into the collective field. And those people interacting with that field and being affected by it, another feedback loop, self-fulfilling prophecy. When we go into states of expanded awareness, when we open the heart, which of course is where we get intuition from, why does intuition come from the heart? Why do we feel it here? I just know. It's because this is our point of connection to expanded awareness. Innate intelligence, not taught intelligence, programmed intelligence, what we call the intellect, the left side of the brain overwhelmingly, but the heart. And the reason intuition knows, I mean, we don't say my intuition is working it out.
Right.
We go, look, I'm working it out. I'm thinking. We don't say that here. We say, I just know. Why? Because intuition, the heart knows, because it's connecting with those levels of awareness that do know. It doesn't have to work it out. And once we start opening our heart, becoming intuitive beings rather than thinking beings alone, very low level of awareness thinking, and we start expanding our self-identity and our perceptions of possibility and our perceptions of everything. And we start to realize we're all one. And what are we fighting each other for? What are we fighting each other for? We're all one consciousness, having different experiences. Hey, come here, man. Let's chill out. That dramatically changes the information in the end, the frequency information states that we are broadcasting into the collective field. And they then start expanding the frequency of the collective field, which everyone is interacting with, and then they start getting influenced and affected by that rather than low vibrational emotion and the self-fulfilling prophecy. This is the stadium on which this is going to be sorted out. Because if we go on trying to change the world of the five senses within the world of the five senses, we are playing away from home. First of all, we're trying to do the impossible, which is change the movie once it's hit the screen. And secondly, we are operating in this realm of the five senses that this hidden hand manipulation is expert at manipulating. By getting you to look over here, so over there, like the hands of the magician, look over there while I do something here. They're brilliant at that. But when you go into the realms of true self, expanded self, intuitive self, they can't do that. Because while they're doing the fancy tricks with the magician's hands, this is saying, I can see both your hands, mate. I see what you're doing. Because you are in terms of your perception, you are not like that. You are on top of the hill, looking at it all, seeing the forest, and you become more and more difficult to scam, because the range that you're seeing things expands so much. You have to be there to be scammed on the scale that the human race has been scammed, perception-wise. It's perception that's going to change everything. And the alternative media needs to start in far greater numbers to understand this. Because what's happening, and I think that's one of the reasons that some people went for Trump, is if you don't see that this is where the manipulation is really happening, therefore this is the way where we have to sort it out, then you can go on year after year saying that's a false flag, it's all a scam, one force controls both sides. But what you can't see is an answer to it. You can't see an answer to it because you're looking for answers in the five senses. You're looking for answers in the movie. That's already a done deal by the time you see it. And therefore, that frustration can pull you back to old answers. Let's change the president and make him one of us. I'm not condemnatory about decisions that people have made in the alternative media, because I understand them. I understand why they've done it, many of them anyway. They're desperately trying to find an answer to what they've spent years identifying. But the answer to a problem is not another aspect of the same problem. You just continue the problem. We have to open our minds and look at the way reality works. Look at how we're interacting with it, how we're affecting it, and how it's affecting us. And let's change this reality at the level where reality can be changed, and not kid ourselves that we can go on changing it where it can't be changed, because we're going to be very disappointed if we go on trying.
Wow. Powerful. David Icke, we're coming towards the end of this, but I do want to tell you, from me personally, and I'm sure a lot of people watching, you have been instrumental in moving this thing forward, in raising the consciousness and actually manifesting those things which I think you set out to do. And I want to tell you thank you personally from me, and all of the work that you still continue to do. I know you have an upcoming tour if people want to check that out, the Worldwide Wake Up Tour, right? So it's the worldwidewakeup.com.
Yeah, well, thanks for saying that. That's very kind. But I haven't even started yet. I haven't even started yet. The most important part of my life is yet to happen, because we need to go into these areas I'm talking about.
I love it.
Big time. I've been going around the world. This is very, very encouraging. I've been going around the world since last June, a year now. I've been literally all around the world: America, Australia, New Zealand, all over Europe, and up into Scandinavia, everywhere. And there is an awakening going on. There are people looking at things they would never have looked at before, and the kind of people too, people that you would have said, no, never him, never her. Yes, them, they are starting to look at it. People are beginning to look at it. It's not the majority yet, nothing like the majority, but compared with what it was when I started out 27 years ago, woo, it's extraordinary. And I'm writing a book at the moment, all day, every day, to get it finished, and then I'm picking up the tour again in Canada in late August, early September. Then I'm going to France and Bratislava, and also to Maastricht, right on the border in Holland, the Netherlands, right on the border with Germany, just inside the Netherlands, for the simple reason that in the free democratic country of Germany, they won't allow me to speak.
Oh, wow.
So we've tried about 15 venues, and they all get the treatment, and the threats and stuff like that. So we're just over the border from Germany, but people from Germany can get there easier, a large part of Germany anyway. And when the authorities are saying you can't speak, then you must be saying something they don't want people to hear. So thanks to the German authorities for confirming that. And I'm going to keep going anyway.
I love it. I love it. Well, I'm glad that you are. I'm glad that you're here. I'm glad for everything that you've done. And so, David Icke, thank you so much for being on the show. This has been fantastic. This has been a dream come true, really. So thank you very much. And hopefully we will be able to have you back on again to talk about your new book when it's ready.
Yeah, that would be great. And it's been a real pleasure. It's been a great chat. I've really enjoyed it. Thanks very much.
Thank you. All right. Well, wow, that was a good time. Excellent.
Awesome.
Yeah, man. He is somebody who woke me up. One of the first people. I mean, starting to talk about like Council on Foreign Relations, Trilateral Commission, Bilderberg, all of those things. He was like the first guy, man. And I mean, pre-YouTube, I remember like downloading on like LimeWire. I would go and download his stuff, and yeah, and I do think it's been an interesting 2 weeks of guests.
Yeah.
Of two guys who've been at it from the beginning of this movement, waking people up, who've stayed true to the message, both of whom are far from slowing down. They're just increasing at speed. And both of them talking about how the revolution is an evolution of individual consciousness.
Right.
It's about your job as an individual to go inside of yourself and develop yourself. It's not about going out and holding a placard. It's not about yelling at somebody. It's not about shutting somebody down and not allowing them to speak. It's about going inside yourself, recognizing the power that you have, and then manifesting that into the world.
One thing that he kept referencing to was intuition.
Yes.
And I found that very fascinating. And I discovered something recently that completely changed, or made me understand intuition on a deeper level. And because I constantly question, like, what is it? How does it work?
Right.
And I went through this exercise where if you just imagine yourself driving a car.
Okay.
And you're in the car, you can smell the car, you can see what's around you, et cetera, et cetera. What's the car that you're driving?
It's my car.
Okay. I never said, imagine yourself driving your car.
Right.
That's the intuition kicking in.
Interesting.
So I started kind of playing with that in different areas, like looking at somebody, and it's where your imagination fills in the gaps. That's the intuition.
Interesting. And we know certainly a lot more than we give ourselves credit for. I mean, that's why he was saying like that conscious cognitive thinking is actually pretty low level.
Right.
And I mean, it's, it's I've heard this described with Major League Baseball players where they say that they can see the spin on the ball as it comes out of the pitcher's hand. They're like, fastball, curve, slider, knuckle, whatever. But they actually can't. Scientifically, they actually can't. But every single one of them is like, no, I totally can. But the speed at which it's happening, it can't even process, right? So they're, like you say, they're actually filling in gaps of like the literal vision because they've just been at it practicing so long, again, of making their individual self powerful, of increasing their perception, being able to change the speed. We know that we can do these things. And I do think, I think that it's something that sets our show apart in the way that we try to present it.
Absolutely.
I think that we try to present the why. We're very big on people as individuals becoming the best them that they can be. This is not about taking political sides. It's not about doing any of that. And I think these last 2 weeks, especially with the things that have been going on the last 2 weeks, I'm juiced, man.
Yes.
I think it's coming. Awesome. I think it's all coming.
What a great show.
We're coming, yeah. And we're coming close to the end of the show. So let me say goodbye to the people here.
Thank you, Vin.
Thank you very much, Christian, for today. Wow, great show. We had some little technical difficulties. I'm going to actually, right after we're done with this, take the archive and throw it up. We're going to do like a fake live broadcast onto Facebook, onto Activist Post Facebook. If you want to go and check this out and watch it again right away, you could do that. Facebook.com/ActivistPost. If you want to see archives of the show, you can go to YouTube.com/Vin Armani or YouTube.com/ActivistPost. If you want to listen to the podcast, today would be a really good podcast day to have it saved, to go back and listen, especially to David Icke, who I really want to thank, one of my heroes in this movement. You can do that on iTunes and Stitcher. The show is there for you. We will be back next Monday at 10 a.m. and I assure you that we will be broadcasting on all of the platforms that time. We'll get that figured out. You get yourself figured out. And until then, stay free.